Welcome back to Haddonfield and Beyond, your one-stop shop for all things Halloween, Haddonfield, and most things beyond. Tonight we are going to dive in to, I believe, one of our, or at least our special guests, one of his favorite Halloween films. I believe it's pretty high up on his list. Tonight we are watching the I'm going to use the word classic carefully here, but the 1998 classic, the 20th anniversary of the Halloween franchise, Halloween H20. And I'm joined tonight, first off, Mr. Dean Render. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? It's been a rough weekend for me. I've had a lot going on, busy weekend. So kicking back, relaxing, and watching a movie tonight is the perfect way to get into this. So, how are you guys? What's going on?
Busy, busy, getting ready to send a kid to
Yeah,
school and getting ready to go back to work and cardio rehab and all that good stuff. Joining us tonight, he's a hard guy to get a hold of these days, but I had a feeling he would return for this one. We were supposed to do a watch along for this several months ago. To a point, it still sits in my StreamYards tab saying Halloween H2O watch party with
that's
Mike
funny.
Bish. I ended up having to back out. But here we are months later, towards the end of summer, which is convenient. It's about around the same time it came out. Mike Bish, what's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot, man. Glad to be here. Excited for this watch along. Glad to be on here with you guys. It's been a while, but we've all been busy. You guys have been putting out great content on Haddonfield and beyond. So I'm just excited to kind of like Dean said, kick back and enjoy a movie after what has been for me too, just a hellacious busy week.
Yeah, it seems to be the name of the game as we all get older here. Just to let everybody know ahead of time, this one's going to work a little bit differently than watch parties we've done in the past. This time around, we actually have, I thought I had five talking points. I actually have six talking points that we're going to go over during the film about the production of the film. And then for those that weren't able to tune in to the watch party, or those of you that might have to leave at some point during, these talking points are going to be edited out into short videos. And just like some brief insight into this is we're going to talk about how Halloween H2O came to be. We're going to talk about Robert Zappia, who is the main writer of Halloween H2O. It's not Kevin Williamson, despite popular belief, and we'll get into how all that worked. Jamie Lee Curtis's must have in order to return, the masks, which we were just talking about off air, the score, which Mike brought up earlier in our group chat, and Mustafa Akkad's part and how it relates to Halloween Resurrection. So there are going to be six main talking points that come up during the stream. Otherwise, we're just going to sit back and enjoy the show. Before we get into it, though, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up to date with all of our content. We do have some pretty important stuff coming up with the Grimnox Productions guys for Halloween Aftermath. Dean and I got more coming up in terms of the Halloween Lost sequels, and we were just speaking off air that we do want to do more Halloween watch parties between now and Halloween. We'll probably try to squeeze another one in with the three of us, hopefully before the month of October. And then once we get to October, we're going to try to do one, two, and four. My made up make believe trilogy that I like the best. Before we get into this, though, not only to you guys but to the chat, when's the last time you sat down and watched Halloween H2O? And have you seen it yet in 4K? Because I have not. This will be my first time watching this film in 4K. Mike, you first, man.
Probably a month ago.
Yeah,
So not too
he's fresh.
not too, yeah, not too long at all. I think I watched it for the anniversary. Um, so it might not even have been a month ago. It might have been even sooner than that. But
Would have been earlier this
super
month.
fresh.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I am sitting down and watching it in 4K. Because when I watched it this past time, I had a super long day. Didn't get home till like 11 p.m. at night, and I just laid in bed and streamed it. So I have not watched it in 4K yet, but broke open the Steelbook, popped it in the player, and it'll be the first time in 4K tonight.
Dean,
Nice.
before you go, I just want to let everybody know that we have it queued up. I can't give you a timestamp because all of our timestamps might be just a tiny bit different based on the introduction and what version you're watching. Or it's only one version of the movie that's easily available for the public. But as soon as the films under the Dimension logo comes up, the second the whole word films is there, is where we're paused. So Sandman is beginning to play. But if you can pause your streams at Dimension Films the second it's up in full. That is where we will begin in about 5 or 6 minutes time. Dean, what about you, man? When's the last time you watched H2O, and have you watched it in 4K yet?
It's been a while. I haven't revisited this even since I bought it, which was over a year ago. I bought that Scream Factory trilogy set. So I opened it, checked everything out to make sure it was all good. But I've yet to check this 4K out. So this is my first watch in 4K. To let the audience know, this could be a little bit interesting, maybe. A lot of the times the 4K transfers tend to differ slightly. So what Sean and Mike might be watching could be a little bit different from the version that I'm watching. They both have the Paramount Steelbooks. About a year ago, I think they came out at this point, and I'm watching the Scream Factory version, as you guys can see, tucked away over my shoulder. So yeah, we're all getting into pretty much the 4K for the first time, I think, and I'm curious to see maybe if they differ. Maybe it's something that can come up in topic of discussion. But yeah, it's been quite some time since I watched this, so first revisit, and easily about a year.
Uh, Dean, what do you remember about seeing this movie for the first time?
Um, I remember the hype being, 20 years later, kind of anniversary coming back, supposed to kind of go back to the roots a little bit, which is kind of interesting in a sense because, it's taken out of Haddonfield. We end up in California. So it's a different setting, but you do get Jamie Lee and or Laurie and Michael, back together for the first time in a long time for big confrontation. As I've always said, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but it kind of falls in the middle for me. But I will give credit where it's due with kind of probably one of the better confrontations that we get throughout the franchise between Laurie and Michael. So bonus points for that.
What about you, Mike? Do you remember your first time viewing the movie?
Yeah, it was the first Halloween movie I saw in theater. I was super young, and I just remember, being terrified of seeing it in the theater. But um, it was great. It's a movie that I love, and I've like I told you guys today, I've grown to like it even more. I find it creeping up my list. It is what I consider in my Mount Rushmore of Halloween films. So for me, I have the I'm not going to say the order right now, but I have Halloween, the original, H2, H2O, and H4 on my Mount Rushmore. And then for me, I don't want to say it's a big drop off, but I have those four movies like pretty high up, and then it's a kind of a significant drop for me with the other films. But yeah, great. So
Halloween H2O was the first Halloween movie I seen anything of. My family was away on a vacation. I guess I would have been. This would have been at the person's house, so if it came out in '98, I'd have been like 10, going on 11, and I'd probably seen about 20 minutes of the movie, and I was intrigued, and I knew that my cousin was a diehard Halloween fan. So seeing 20 minutes, and the 20 minutes that I saw of H2O, I didn't get to see the ending, but it was basically just before Laurie walks back into the town with the axe, right up
Mm.
until you think he might be dead. Um, when Lonnie grabs Laurie, being like, "He's dead, he's dead," or not Lonnie, Ronnie, pardon me, Lonnie. Um, so I didn't actually see anything with the ambulance, but it was enough to like. I don't know if I was hooked, but it made me wonder what everything else was like. And so I believe about a year, maybe two later, I did the 1, 2, 4 and been hooked ever since.
Nice.
Anybody have any H2O thoughts they want to share, whether it's the movie, merchandise, Just anything H2O that they want to bring up before we get started?
Not really. I mean, we'll talk about certain scenes throughout the movie, and I'll talk about the some of the issues I have with it as we come upon them. But one thing I will say is it's one of my favorite openings of any Halloween film. I just like the color grade. I love the obviously the Sandman song, and it just feels very fally, even though it's shot out in California. It feels very fally that I feel like we don't get a lot in a lot of Halloween movies, which is very weird. But I feel the fall atmosphere in this film, especially like I said in the opening. The only one for me that kind of competes with that is H4. I think H4 is a beautiful opening, just out in the country in the field, super simple. But I love the opening to this movie.
All right. Well, let's get started here. I'll do a 3, 2, 1, go. Everybody can click play on go. But just a reminder to everybody who's joining, we are watching Halloween H2O tonight. Mike and I are watching the. Who did this, Dean? Is it a Paramount production or
That yeah, if you look on the spine, it should tell you somewhere at
Paramount?
the top or bottom.
Paramount. Yeah.
Yeah, Paramount.
So, and then you have the Scream Factory one, right? The comic looking cover one.
Yeah.
So we're at Dimension Films. If you guys can pause your movie, your stream, however you're watching it, as soon as Films is finished coming up, and it's just Dimension Films on screen, we should be good to go here. I will do the 3, 2, 1, starting now. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, mine was perfect. It was as soon as we unpaused, the knife went right in the pumpkin.
You might be about a split second ahead of me, but not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the
Watch
color grade right there.
watch how loud you guys have it in the background.
Mhm.
I don't even know if I can hear my audio at all right now. It's not working, is it?
I don't
Subtitles.
really, I don't really hear anybody's.
Okay.
No, like my audio is flat out not working at all. I will have to see what I can do about this.
Sean, you're running a soundbar, right?
Yeah, it has this glitch once in a while where if it's paused for
Yeah.
too long,
Mine will do that. Do you have an input button on the remote for the soundbar?
not in front of me. No.
Because that'll happen sometimes. It'll happen with mine, and if I switch the input, because mine switches between TV and like HDMI, so if I switch the input, it'll kick back in. Sometimes that works.
I'm gonna have to try to catch up with you guys because mine's a disaster over here. Mine turned right off. So
We're not too
need
far
a
in.
4K player.
Do you want to pause and try to restart?
That'd be great if you could. My audio's back now. That was a disaster. I
Oh,
apologize.
why don't we kick it back like first chapter? It'll restart at Dimension logo, and then I mean we're only what couple minutes. We're 2 minutes in, so if you want,
Yeah, let's do that. My apologies, everybody. This is what you get
yeah,
when you don't have a 4K player and you play on the PlayStation.
yeah. I just jumped back. I have it paused. It's right at like 1 second. So
I paused mine right at Dimension, like once film showed up, Dean, like same as last time.
oh, same spot. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do that.
All right. Yeah, I'm right back at that same spot.
I would just let ours play and tell them go when it finishes.
Yeah, that'll work.
The problem is it won't just play on the PlayStation. You gotta click, 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 click.
Mm-hmm. We'll just get yours going, and then as it
Okay.
starts, yeah.
Yeah, you could just play it, and once film's about to pop up, me and Dean can just hit play.
Mm-hmm.
This is awful. What's going on, Jerry? I'll read that in one moment, man. Here, once my PlayStation wants to cooperate with me, which it is not at all right now. My deepest apologies here as we try to figure this shit out. Just gotta make sure my audio works now. I'm about to press play. I'm on Dimension Films where we were before. I
Okay.
cannot promise the audio is going to work. It should, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give the audience a chance to get back queued up. We're paused at Dimension Films. Take two. 3, 2, 1, go. No, I gotta go back, guys. We're gonna have to do what you originally said. The audio just keeps canceling out.
So you have to start it, play it, get it going, and then we'll catch up.
Yeah, I know the audio works because
Okay.
it just played till I paused it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you guys stay paused on Dimension Films, I'll press play. I won't be able to do 3, 2, 1, go. I'll just say go.
Yeah, that's fine.
What's going on, Craven? Long time no talk, buddy. Hope you're well. Plenty of Scream stuff out there for you lately, dude. If you're a Scream fan, you're definitely going to want to be paying attention over the next, I don't know, couple of months. Things are going to get crazy.
Yeah, there's a couple of rumors starting to spill out there now too.
Yeah. The biggest one I seen was I always forget the actor's name who plays the guy from Grey's Anatomy. He was
Detective
also
Oh,
Martin,
yeah.
Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick
Patrick
Dempsey.
Dempsey, that's it. That moving filming helped open up availability for
For
him.
him.
So we'll see. You guys are paused at Dimension Films?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to press play, but there's no guarantee that my audio is going to work here. I might have to restart completely. We'll see. Yeah, no, I got to restart it. Oh, attention, everybody. If you have the option to go get a 4K player and not use a horribly buggy PlayStation, definitely do that.
See, now the startup came through. I caught that,
Yeah, but
which
the
means you
second I
should
go to
be
the movie,
getting.
nothing.
That's what's strange. That's it. That shouldn't really be an issue.
I hear you. Okay. Yeah, I'm
There
assuming
you
you
go.
heard that, which I got to quickly pause before we get copyright striked.
Yeah.
All right, I should be good here on this attempt. So if you
Yeah.
guys are paused, I will go back into the movie. Again, we're on Dimension Films. Apologies. Send all complaints to Sony. Are you guys good?
Yeah.
All right. I will say go once Dimension Films is up.
as well.
I'm not muted. I just haven't said no or go yet. Notice what's happening here is when it goes back and forth, like the TV's blanking out.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a disaster. How do we do this? Just restarting the whole console. Sorry, guys. In the meantime, let's take a look at the chat here.
Yeah, we got that super chat.
Yes, we do. Jerry says, I almost wish Nick Castle returned for H20 with a better mask, of course, but H2O definitely could have used Castle as the shape. You know, there's a lot of people very critical over Chris Duran's performance in Halloween H2O. He, interestingly enough, when he got the part, they didn't even tell him it was for Michael Myers.
Oh wow.
He didn't know that right away. So gives you an idea on how messy the production of the movie was. And he didn't watch anything beforehand. He just kind of made it his own. Obviously, he wasn't going to run around like a clown and completely ruin everything, but um, there'll be no warning here. I'll just tell you go to. So,
Mhm.
and hopefully it works. But yeah, Nick Castle would have been much younger than he is now, so he probably would have been an option back in '98 to return. But at that point in
Yeah.
time, correct me if I'm wrong, the only returning shape that we'd ever gotten was George Wilbur in 4 and 6,
Mhm.
and Wilbur wasn't even set to be Michael Myers in 6.
Oh wow. Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, I think you nailed that one with the only returning Myers.
Any thoughts, Mike, on Castle returning, or do you like Chris Duran's performance?
I mean, I told y'all today I like Chris Duran a lot. But if I had the
Mhm.
choice, I would pick Nick Castle to return. I mean, there's no question about that. But yeah, I'm not one of those people that has a big problem with the way Chris Duran formed. I mean, I think performed. I think a lot of that could do, people being kind of blindsided with the mask as well. Just like I feel like a lot of people hold Halloween H2O accountable for the opening of Halloween Resurrection. They kind of put those hand in hand together, which I understand why. But um, yeah, I had no problem with his performance. But if I had to pick, of course, I would love to have Nick Castle back.
Yeah.
See if we can launch this thing again.
Mhm.
See what happens. Nothing yet. I don't really know what's going wrong here, guys. As long as you guys stay queued, we should get it here eventually.
Yeah.
Anybody has any questions or comments they want to throw in the chat, feel free to do so as we attempt to figure this mess out. Do you have Netflix on your phone? I'm pretty sure it's on there. Can you just check? Not that I want to watch it on there, but like people are waiting, and this has been a fucking joke.
Well, remember when we were setting up the soundbar, we had a problem with this?
It wasn't this. It just doesn't want to work.
Yeah, it's all right.
Have y'all gone to the movies to see anything recently?
We've seen Deadpool and Wolverine, and we've seen Twisters. I don't think we've seen anything else, right?
Nice. I will recommend Strange Darling if you haven't seen it. It's my #1 movie and horror movie of the year. It was a
Oh,
really big shock. So I don't want to give too much information away. I went in blind. I think a lot of that had to do with it too. But yeah, it was really good.
Nice. I'll have to check into that. I think my last one was Trap a couple weeks ago, which is getting a 4K. I was not sure if it was going to get Blu-ray or 4K, but it's getting a 4K.
Yeah, I saw Trap too. I love the third act. I just thought it was so slow. For me personally, I just thought it was so slow. But the third act was great. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm gonna make an attempt at going here, and if it doesn't go this time, or maybe one other time, I'm gonna switch to Netflix, which is unfortunate because when you pay for a 4K, you want to be able to.
You want to watch it?
It's about to go.
I hear it.
Go.
Where's that? There we go.
Bloody hell! It's like a
Third time's
lottery.
a charm.
Apologies, people, but we're going. Children are in the streets, and to echo Mike's sentiments from like 20 minutes ago now, the beginning of this movie fucking rocks. Like Halloween 101.
Yeah, I give this movie a lot of credit for that. The opening act and how this all plays out. Kudos.
Thank you. Yeah. The movie was reflecting off the phone. So, funny enough, in earlier versions of this movie, it wasn't Marion in it. It was the daughter of Dr. Loomis. I believe her name was Rachel, but I might be wrong on that. And they ended up switching it to Marion in later drafts.
That makes sense because you have Loomis's office that gets rated here.
Yep.
Yeah. And I want to say that the police officer, when they come later on, said that Dr. Loomis was living with her.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how does that come about?
Who knows? Who knows?
That's why I have my flashlight.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt and some other guy.
Yeah.
What are y'all at right now? I just want to make sure it's correct.
I got Joseph Gordon-Levitt just caught the hockey stick.
Okay, same here. Literally, as you said that, I just wanted to make sure.
I think I'm slightly ahead. I got, where are we at here? He's talking. He's got the hockey stick in his hand. I think he's going to check her house out. Yeah, he's about to walk in her kitchen.
So I know we all agree that this opening, is really good. Would you say it would be in your top 2 or 3?
Man, yeah, I'd probably have it. I'd have one before it, and I'd have four before it. Um, but I don't know if I'd have anything else before it. I think there's a good chance it'd probably be three for me. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's pretty good.
wish the whole movie felt like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
My TV's too loud. Let me know.
no, you're good. It actually let me know we're right on par with each other. All right.
Yeah, same. I'm like a split second ahead, so that works.
Even though I don't like the film or love the film, I always go back to the opening of Rob Zombie's H2. I always love that
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Now you want to
It's
talk
hard for
about
me to place these.
yeah, it's like you want to talk about a movie that you wish was more like the opening. That one right there. Because I remember watching that and I was like, holy shit, here we go.
It's like you think you're in for a ride, and then all of a sudden, she wakes up out of the dream. You're like,
Yeah.
shit.
That's me going to my parents' house when I was a young teen, freshly out. Dad, what beer you got in the fridge? I remember that part scaring the hell out of me in the theater as a kid.
Oh, and beats the shit out of the potholders.
Yeah. I'm not too big in the jump scares. That was good.
Yeah.
A lot of films don't film in order, and I'm not saying H2O filmed in order, but this was the first thing that they had filmed for H2O, and they filmed it off of Robert Zapia's script before Kevin Williamson had come on to do basically a 1 week rewrite, literally right before filming the rest of the movie.
Wow.
And Kevin Williamson, for people that don't know, obviously made famous by Scream, and he was approached to do this movie just time and time and time again. And he kept telling them no because he was busy with he was working on the pilot to Dawson's Creek.
Kevin Williamson has a pretty good catalog on him.
Yeah. See, this is where it really starts to get good for me. This gets dark, starts to get a little creepy. This is where the opening really picks up.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it here in a second, but I don't know. It's just good filmmaking right here in the opening, like all of it. Does Donald Pleasance get credit for this movie for this picture?
I
It's a good question.
mean, technically, it's a cameo. And Tom Kane does a well enough job on the voiceover coming up. The truth is, they wanted to use Donald Pleasance's voice in the movie, and all the clips they could find at that time, good shot of Michael there, had other things mixed in with them, and they couldn't find just the audio itself. So they brought Tom Kane on. It took Tom Kane something like 50 takes to find the voice.
Yeah.
That's interesting. See, I love that shot. The shadow on the fence with the leaves.
Yeah.
Like it sounds so simple to do, like create that fall atmosphere. But I feel like again, it's something we don't get in a lot of Halloween films, unfortunately.
At this stage, it's the H6 mask.
Yeah.
Was he wearing the H6 mask in that shot you were talking about too?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I guess we'll start with the masks here, and he's wearing it in this shot coming up
Yeah.
too.
Right there. And then I think it switches right after that.
And it's something I told you all about earlier. I think they should have just stuck with the H6 mask. I would have been perfectly fine with that.
Still H6 mask there.
It's in a lot of this opening. It's in more than I thought.
I want to say Chris Duran said they used the H6 for the entire opening.
Yeah, it was the first thing shot for the movie. I doubt that they even had the Stan
Yeah, the other
Winston
one,
mask ready at that point, or the what's the other one called? Dean.
the K and B effect, the K and B effects.
So I'll dive into some mask talk now that we've gotten past that, which we'll clip out for its own video afterwards. But basically, what happened is coming on to H2O, they picked out the masks for 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. They lined them all up, and somehow the one they chose to use was 6 out of that bunch. Which, like, when you have one to know that 1 and 2 were an option, and you
Yeah.
chose not to use them, maybe they just didn't sit well on Chris Durand. I don't know. Obviously, makeup and effects nowadays are far beyond where they were back then.
But you would think they would be able to do a mold to his face at least.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you would have thought, but they ended up going with 6, and they shot this sequence. Well, I don't know about the detective sequence, but they shot the mask sequence. The H6 mask sequence is all in the beginning before they got to any of Jamie Lee Curtis's stuff. That is also before Kevin Williamson came on to do his, I think it was a 6-day rewrite. And the director, who I pulled up a comment of, about earlier, Steve Miner, um, hated the H6 mask. He was against it. The Weinsteins wanted the H6 mask used. Miner wanted the Winston mask used, and the Acads wanted the the K and B? Is that what you said it's called? So you
Yeah.
had all three creative parties wanting different things, which is it's the tale of a lot of Halloween productions. Is
Mhm.
too many chefs in the kitchen being pulled in so many different directions.
That's just crazy to me when you have 1 and 2 as an option. But like you mentioned, it could have fit him differently, so it kind of gave it a weird look. And then
But
they might have
also,
been thinking, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Dean. I'm sorry.
They might have been thinking like long term licensing and like likeness rights with Shatner and all that.
Yeah,
I'm just
Shatner in
also
'98 is much more in the spotlight than he is nowadays.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm
Sorry, go
also
ahead, Mike.
I was just saying I'm also interested to see like what mask was actually lined up. Like I know they said 1 and 2, but like was hard for me to believe it was like the original 1 and 2. So like
No,
could that
I doubt they were, because technically the original 1 is the same as 2. It just sat
Mhm.
differently on
yeah,
Dick Warlock's face, and obviously had wear and tear from being under Deborah Hill's bed for years. So
all that smoke,
um,
yeah. Get a yellow looking.
I don't like the Winston mask. I know that it's the popular choice for everyone to go to, but for me, one of the biggest things about Michael Myers, and you can word it however you want, the blackest eyes, the darkest eyes, whatever, but like when you can't see Michael's eyes is when, kind of like our graphic here right above Mike's head, Michael's staring down at Mike, and
Yeah.
like you can't see his eyes. You're looking into a dark abyss. And the Winston masks are like friggin' George Costanza glasses size eye holes.
Yeah, they're
And
huge.
I've seen alterations of the Winston mask that look fantastic.
Mhm.
I
But
think I think I sent something to you, Sean, as well, because obviously the famous shot from this movie is when Michael and Laurie are looking through the door with that glass circle window. My friend Kevin actually took that shot and blackened out the eyes, and it looks amazing. I don't know if I can find it again and send
Well,
it to
interestingly
you.
enough, about that shot is this is the back of our steel case here, hard to see with the light reflection. That is not the Stan Winston mask.
Right.
That is the K&B mask. And if you look on the back of the original, I think it's the VHS cover, it shows the Winston mask. Sorry, not the
Mhm.
Winston mask, the K&B mask. But in the movie, it's the Winston mask. So they did edit and go back and reshoot some of these scenes again to get the Winston mask in it as much as possible. But I really like the K&B mask the best because it's kind of shapeless, if you will. The problem is there's some shots where it looks really bad.
Yeah. It's all about the lighting, and I mean, you might not think that it has that big of an effect on it, but it's. I've played around with it here with a couple that I have like in a display case, and it's just crazy. You shift the lighting a little bit, and it just the way it changes the look is it's pretty drastic.
Yeah, that video that I was talking about earlier, as far as the one that Sean Clark did with the filming locations, he actually walks the filming locations with Chris Duran, and it's pretty informative, because Chris Duran, kind of goes back and talks about what he remembers about filming, and he remembers none of the mask stuff changing. Like, he was never approached about any of that stuff, and um, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to know that
Yeah,
him being the shape, he just didn't have obviously any input. He just did what he was told to do. But
And then, the thing that everyone points out the most with Halloween H20 when it comes to the masks is the CG mask. And basically, um, Steve Miner, the Acads, the Weinsteins, even Patrick Lussier, who edited the film, were all told CGI is advancing. We can go back, we can redo this, it'll look badass. And by the time they got the finished shot back in their hands, because it was done from an outside company, um, it looked awful, and they
yeah,
were pissed. At that point, I don't know why you just don't edit it out. Honestly, like just cut
yeah. I don't,
that frame entirely.
so let
yeah,
me ask
I
y'all
don't know
this:
why it's still included.
do y'all have a problem with this being shot outside of Haddonfield? Like, is that one of your knocks on the film?
For me, I would say not if they nail the atmosphere, which I think for the most part they do. Like it still sort of feels like fall, even though it's warm weather and the color grading
Yeah.
maybe is a little brighter than we're kind of used to. But I think if you kind of lock down, like even with the background, the decorations and stuff, if you make it feel like the season, I think it can work.
So box of life says
In terms of the masks, though, before we move on from that discussion, let us know down in the comment section down below whether you're watching live or after the fact. Which H2O mask do you prefer the most? There's really four of them in total. Are you nuts? And do you like the CGI mask the most? Do you wish they used H6 all the way through, which Steve Miner was just not going to allow? The Stan Winston mask or the KMB? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section.
Yeah, for me, I think like I said before, I would go H6. I just think it was the better decision. But from the sounds of it, and I have not read the Taken Shape books yet in its entirety, but um, based off what you're saying, that was never going to happen. Like, that just was not going to fly. So
Yeah, it's a shame. I would have liked to see the six just last through the whole movie. But then you run into the minor problem of continuity with their erasing 4 through 6. Then if you have the six mask in this, it kind of might cause some confusion, but I think it's also something so kind of minor that you can put it to the side and kind of forget about it.
yeah, my friend Kevin did that. I meant to send it to you too,
Wow.
Dean. But yeah, Can you just imagine if that was the case?
Like that minor, not even minor, but like that just kind of bumps up the quality of what we could have had here. I think you put that in this final product that we have, and you get a lot more fans on board with this movie.
Oh, speaking of Kev, yeah.
He says H6 mask
Yeah.
wouldn't have made sense given the retcon approach. I'm a Winston man through and through, baby. Even with Clay Aiken.
Too bad you don't
This
have your
was the
bells.
90s. Yo, yeah.
Yeah, if I was at the Roadcaster, you would have gotten bells.
And I think we talked about this earlier in the group message, or at least I did. I brought it up. For me personally, guys, I think this is Jamie Lee's best performance in a Halloween film. I know everybody has their love for the original, and I get it. But something about Jamie Lee Curtis in this film, I don't know. It just it hits on all levels. And we'll talk about it later. There's a shot that's probably one of my favorite shots in all of the Halloween films. But I just think her performance in this movie is top notch and the best that we've gotten from her, including the new ones, of course.
I'll say it picks up in the third act. Like when you finally get that confrontation, she's done running and kicks it into high gear. Yeah, that's where I would agree with that. I'm gonna actually kind of gauge that now through the rest of this and see kind of how it plays out. Because from what I remember, overall, I kind of have a little trouble kind of getting on board with that throughout the whole rest of the movie, but definitely by Act 3.
Well, I feel like it's definitely a different approach than what she leaned into as far as the new films. Obviously, we know she had say in this film, but she had a lot of say in these new David Gordon Green movies, which I think was a huge problem with them, in my opinion. But she had, in the David Gordon Green film, she handles it in a way of she's waiting for Michael, she's here for Michael, and instead of like H2O. In general, she's kind of in fear of Michael until Michael comes after her son, and then she goes into kind of, all right, let's do this, and that's when she grabs the axe, and you get that third act that you were talking about, Dean.
Yeah. I will agree, way too much input on the David Gordon Green trilogy, though. Way too much.
Yeah, she had quite a bit on this one too, but it, even more so on the DGG one. You were asking me if I had a problem.
Was that a dog? Did I hear somebody bark?
Yeah, my dog's being dumb.
No, it's okay, man. He wants to watch the movie. That's all. One of my favorite shots in the movie is about to come up. When Michael looks back, kind of through the peek hole, kind of sending that message of, I could really fuck you up right now if I wanted to, but I'm just
gonna steal your car.
Yeah. It's just, I love the shot. That's all. The eyes are black still.
I believe that was an H6 mask there still too at this point. It is. No, is it?
I think that's the Winston. I think the hair's a giveaway.
Yeah, I think it's the Winston.
And the eye holes are so big. Yeah.
I don't know. You get to the point where he's chasing John and I forget Michelle Williams' character's name. Like they're trying to edit around shooting at two different times. When we get there, you're going to see the mask change like 7 times in a matter of a dozen seconds. It's pretty jarring if you're watching closely. But Mike, you asked earlier if I minded if this didn't take place in Haddonfield. I don't mind that at all. Frankly, they could do the whole TV series coming up, not in Haddonfield. I don't think you can continuously go back to, let's go back to Haddonfield Myers' house, Haddonfield Myers' house. Like, it gets old. You eventually got to do something new, something different. The only thing I wonder is, like, this is supposed to be not supernatural, Michael. He's just a guy in a mask here at this point. So when you're driving from Illinois to California, is he just like stopping at your local Sunoco gas station and getting out of the car and fueling with the mask on, or is he taking the mask off? And like, I know that's not shit we're seeing on screen, but like, you're not going from Illinois to California on one tank of fuel.
He's on the side of the road, filling up, stretching.
I thought
Or
the
maybe he
cast.
steals cars multiple times. Maybe he steals cars. Maybe he doesn't fuel. Once he's running out of fuel, he stops, steals another car.
I think the cast for this film was done really good too. Like, I don't think there's anybody I have a problem with, or anybody that comes off as cringy, or that I get kind of pissed at. Like, and this is actually, and I want to throw this out here. I said this earlier, I think in my Letterboxd review of the last time I watched H2O. You know how a lot of these horror films love to throw like musicians in these films and just to throw anybody in there. Can we admit that LL Cool J is actually a pretty good, decent actor?
Yeah.
I thought he did great in this. Deep Blue Sea, I thought he did good. Like, I thought this was one of the films where you throw, a musician in there, and he did good. I thought he did good. He's no Oscar winner, but I thought he did good. It wasn't one of the cringy performances like you get from I don't know, Mr. Freddie.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a pretty good acting track record up until this point. So, brownie points where it's due.
Yeah.
Yeah, LL Cool J was miles above Busta Rhymes, and even Malika Cab admitted after the fact that the stunt casting with Busta Rhymes didn't work out. And true story here, Busta Rhymes had some creative control over the writing of his character too. So like the trick or treat motherfucker stuff, and how many times he drops the line motherfucker in the movie, all Busta Rhymes, and
Oh,
shit all they could do about it. And it's like, wow, you talk about giving someone too much power.
I've had the urge recently to watch Resurrection, and I don't know why. I've been fighting
I was
it.
going to ask.
I don't know. I've been fighting it the past couple of weeks. I have not given in yet. That is a movie that I never revisit. Like, never.
Hasn't left the box. It's been in the box for almost 2 years.
That's I love the cover arts for those, but that one is like, I don't know. It's like I don't know. The way his arms are out looks like he's walking out of a WWE entrance.
His hands. What and why?
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of those, I hate the fact that we didn't get the SWAT team scene in 6.
Yeah.
Well, I saw you bring that up, so I was like, I gotta touch on that. Also, like, one of the funniest moments, like, I'm not a big comedy person in horror movies, but when he walks off and LL tells him to comb his hair,
Yeah.
like the funniest thing in the world, because like it's like a Josh Hartnett thing back then. Like, he always had that cowlick on the side of his hair, and no matter what he was in. So the fact that they do that in this movie, I just thought it was great. It was great.
So in terms of Josh Hartnett and the hair, they didn't have his hair like that for this movie, or they were trying not to have his hair like that for this movie. And he's quoted in the "Blood is Thicker Than Water" H2O documentary of saying he hated how like out of the box pristine they were trying to make him look. So anytime he could, he'd throw his toque on in between takes and fuck around with his hair. And he definitely got into it with the makeup and wardrobe people quite a bit on set. And this is like either his first or one of his first movies he's done. So
Let me ask y'all this: do you think the comb your hair part was ad libbed, or you think that was thrown in there?
I'm gonna say ad lib. I just feels like an off the cuff kind of throwaway ad lib line because it just fits so well and it worked.
It does. I don't know why it makes me laugh so much. It's just hilarious.
it's funny, even though they're not in Haddonfield, this little stretch here, it has that small town Haddonfield feel to it.
Yeah, like I said, I thought they did good with the atmosphere. I've never been in California in the fall, so I don't know if leaves actually fall and all that stuff. Maybe y'all might know better than me, but I just thought they did a good job with it, making it look like fall being shot in California.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how it goes, but I think I was out there once but it was like early to mid August, and it was summer, so it was hot. But never around fall, so I'm not 100% sure like if the season changes, like how drastic it might be.
I mean, I went to LA in December, and it was like 70s.
Hmm.
Uh, just to put that in perspective, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. I'm not sure.
We will try to answer any questions or comments in the chat when we have time to do so. We still have some other discussion points to get to while watching the movie. You're always welcome to donate to the channel and send in a super chat. It helps support what we do. Costs are not cheap, but we really appreciate everybody who does do it. And don't forget that we have Patreon, patreon.com/Fandom Haven. It's not Fandom Empire, it's Fandom Haven now. And you get all the content across this channel, our Fandom Haven channel, the Legacy of Star Wars, and the Legacy of Westeros. Um, but I do want to answer this question. It's funny to remember that Lori has three different children in three different timelines, and they follow it up with basically which is your favorite. Rank the kids, fellas. Basically, how would you rank the kids? So you got John, Jamie, and Allison. Rank them.
You know, that's actually a very good question. Personally, I can go right off the bat. Allison would be. Is it Allison? No, it's not Allison. Is it Allison?
Karen, Allison's a
Karen.
granddaughter.
Sorry,
Hmm.
Karen. Karen. Although
Gotcha.
Allison might as well be the fourth surrogate daughter. Come Dean's favorite Halloween.
Yeah, well, they dropped the ball with the Allison character. I thought they had a really good character in Andy Manichik, but well, that's a whole nother conversation. So I would put Karen third. That's no competition, but that's a really good question between Jamie and um, what's his name in the film again? Why
John.
am I
John.
John? I'd probably go Jamie. Um, just right off of the bat, but it's a lot closer than I think for me personally than uh than I thought it would be. Um, that's a good question. I don't think I've ever seen that question before. So great question.
That's a new one. Yeah,
I think for
I'd
me.
probably
Oh,
go
go ahead,
ahead.
Dean.
Um, I'll just knock it out quick. I'd probably go Jamie and then Karen because I like the arc from Kills because she has kind of redemption, not as annoying. And then John.
Um, yeah, I'll answer this in a complicated way. In terms of the films that are released, I would go Jamie, Karen, John. Jamie obviously gets done dirty in six quite a bit, and
Yeah,
obviously there's political mumbo jumbo behind that. Um, Karen, I feel like has a really good um, character arc from where she starts in 2018 to where she ends in Kills. Um, hey, Matt, she did die in Kills. Uh, um, but John, I, I just don't think John gets enough, right? He gets, Karen gets three movies. Jamie technically gets three movies, but two with Danielle Harris. And
hmm,
then John gets one. And I don't
yeah,
mind John in this movie. His mom is on every drug in the book. She's an alcoholic. She is traumatized, and it's all coming on him. So yeah, he probably would be a snot nosed little 17-year-old punk.
I don't even think he's that. I don't know. I like him in this. It kind of makes me want more. I love I love the idea, what Braden Timmons has done with his fan films. It makes me just want would want more. And obviously seeing Josh Hartnett in Trap, even though I'm not the biggest fan, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Trap movie. I thought Josh had a great performance in that movie, and it just makes me wonder, if they were to revisit this timeline, what he would be like in a new Halloween film. I thought he did good at a young age here, and I thought he was good in Trap, and he's kind of been off the map since before Trap. So I don't know. That's a good question though. So very good question.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Lost sequels that's in Taking Shape 2, there's two pictures that come up that were both going to be the same one. There was H25, uh, which would have been a John Tate focused movie, and then there was Halloween Retribution, which we've covered recently here on the channel, which was basic. I don't want to call it a buddy cop movie because it wasn't that, but your two leads were John Tate and Sheriff Brackett. It's not the sheriff anymore at that point, but seeing how that character plays out in those two films that did not get to go to screen, but there's quite a bit of literature on it. He goes through a really deep development cycle that does remind me of Braden's films. So that combined with Braden's films, which they're just fan films, but and by the way, is his Last Nightmare Part One is getting ready to debut in about 8 weeks time or so, 7 weeks time, in and around there.
Yeah.
And we'll be covering a bunch of that on the channel as well. But like when you take what he's done with that, and then the Lost sequels, like the John character just had a world of potential that sadly didn't get utilized.
Yeah, I would have liked to see what happened with Retribution because you get like a big maturity level, and sadly, we don't get to see that.
Do y'all I don't know. Do y'all know if Josh Hartnett did anything kind of movie wise after this? As far as anything that was kind of big that would kind of, I know they went in a different direction with Resurrection, but anything that would have, affected his possible filming for Resurrection if they, reached out. Like I said, I haven't read the book, so I don't even know if they attempted to reach out to him or anything like that.
They actually had him, man. The studio had him under a 7 picture deal. One of them was
Wow.
H2O, and they had other movies they ended up doing with him. But the big one that would have came out that probably would have made him object to certain Halloween movies in the 2000s was Pearl Harbor. Like Pearl Harbor was huge when it came out with
Yeah,
Ben
that's
Affleck.
I kind of talked about this earlier in the stream, but is there a character that y'all have a problem with in this movie, or somebody that really irks you at all? For me, it's a no, but I just wanted to know y'all's opinion because like I said, I love the movie, so I know
Yeah.
y'all kind of have critiques. So I love picking people's brains as far as like why certain things. Is there a character that I talked about earlier that maybe y'all don't really care for, or that kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit?
For me, I think this is one of the things that's aged well with this movie is you look at what the performers have gone on to do since then. Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, even the girl playing Sarah, she's gone on to do stuff. Adam Arkin went on to do so much. He pops up in, I believe, Justified, Sons of Anarchy, so many other things. LL Cool J, obviously. I can't think of one character in this movie that makes me go, ugh, I want to fast forward past your parts. But there's a lot of other Halloween characters in other movies that definitely make me feel that way.
For me, it's Adam Arkin a little bit. He's a little goofy in this, but he went on to do kind of bigger and better things. But just he's a little kind of funny in like the goofy adult kind of way. I think in this for me.
Gotcha. Sean, speaking of him though, I just finished rewatching Sons of Anarchy last night. So good, man.
Nice. We've been meaning to go get back to it. We just haven't yet. It's been a few years now for us.
It still lives up, man. It still lives up. My stepmom actually earlier this year she went to a convention here in the city and she met Charlie Hunnam. And it was like it made her whole year. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna rewatch Sons of Anarchy because the wife goes to bed earlier than I do, and I'm just kind of hanging out in bed. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, let me rewatch Sons of Anarchy. So I just finished that last night. I think that was only my second time watching it through. So
I don't think that was K and B mask there in that shot.
I just caught it on the
The
second time, and it comes back around, and I think it was.
Yeah. Um,
that's
they're all
a
over the place with with the masks
Mm-hmm.
they had in the movie.
I kind of like that callback, obviously to the original film with with
Yeah.
Michael standing across the street by the car. I love that callback.
Um, so let's move on to another discussion point here, and I wanted to bring up how this movie came into existence. Originally, while they were debating what direction Halloween 7 would go, Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter, and Deborah Hill approached the dual creative teams, the Accads and the Weinsteins, about doing H2O. The trio would make a united front for the 20th anniversary. All had agreed to return. John Carpenter was actually set to write and direct this film. A lot of people think it was just like, you know, in theory, but no, he totally agreed to do it. And then when it came down to sign off and it came to money, here we go again. He thought that he was owed money from the past Halloween movies. So to write and direct this movie, not only did he want $10 million back in 1997, which is nuts. Sorry, it's just bananas.
Yeah.
He also wanted a guaranteed next picture, so he wanted to do the sequel to Halloween H2O. And given how Halloween H2O was going to go, um, or how it did go, we must think that maybe Carpenter wasn't on board with killing Michael. Either way, he wanted $10 million, and he got laughed out of the room, and that didn't happen at all. And the final budget for this movie was still pretty high for a Halloween movie. $17 million doesn't include marketing, but when you consider John Carpenter wanted $10 million, you would have done a lot less with this movie. Not to mention, they actually expanded the budget for this movie compared to what it was originally supposed to be. So Carpenter just kind of shot himself in the foot there, like he'd done in the past, and it's unfortunate because if that doesn't happen, we're probably talking about a John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween H2O movie.
Just imagine that. Just think about that. What if Carpenter came back? What if there was negotiations and they kind of talked him down and then got him on board for this? Like, what would we have gotten?
Here comes the psycho car.
Yeah.
This had to be such a cool moment for Jamie though, and her mom in general. But it had to be such a cool moment to be able to film this. To have this moment and then just be able to have it on film as well. I don't know if they've done anything else together on screen, but if they haven't, this got to be gold for them.
I think they fit the Psycho score in the background too. A little bit of the.
Happy Halloween.
She's like, shit, thanks.
I got thoughts on this scene, but before I do, Mike, would you have been up for a John Carpenter led Halloween H2O if it meant losing this version of the movie?
I guess it all depends on what that means. I love this movie. I'm a big fan of this movie, and I love it each time I watch it. So it's hard for me to know if what that would look like or how much of it would change. It's hard to do that with a movie that you really enjoy. So I don't know. I think the only like I said, it's tough. I mean, but to bring back John Carpenter, I think I'd be for that kind of. Just like you think about the Nick Castle situation. Like I thought Chris Rand did good, really good in this movie personally, but the thought of bringing Nick Castle back, I think that would have been a huge plus. So I kind of feel the same way with the John Carpenter situation as well. What else we could have gotten? I do. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. It's hard to change or kind of point out some things that you would change on a movie you really like. So I don't know. That's a tough question for me. But it's hard to go against Mr. John Carpenter himself. So
I can't believe I'm saying this, and like this is one of the Halloween movies where it's grown on me. I think part of it is I've read so much of the behind the scenes stuff now, or listened to the audio versions of Taking Shape 1 and 2, plus watched the making ofs, where I really do have an appreciation for how the film turned out, considering it was being pulled in three different directions. The fact they were able to get it to even where it's at is rather impressive. John Carpenter just $10 million, guys, back in 1990s. Like that's the production budget of Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
$10 million. Like it's bananas, and you just have to wonder if at that point in time he had the franchise's best interest in mind, or if he was all about the payday. This is a guy that literally was going to send Michael into space. Not trying to rip on him, because without his work on the original Halloween, we're not where we are today. That being said, I really do think that it comes down to having the right creatives in place, and you need to be able to work as a cohesive unit. And if you can't do that, then you kind of end up in George Lucas territory, because you don't want to answer to anybody.
yeah, I get that, and I kind of feel like bringing John Carpenter on, with his outrageous $10 million, request. I think it would have just caused even more feud than what was already on, already that what was had. So maybe we would have got a worse film, and it's hard to put, to say that or put that in perspective because it's John Carpenter. But it kind of sounds like he was pretty greedy and didn't really care in general back then. So I don't know. That's actually a very good question. Being able, knowing the behind the scenes stuff, because again, it's hard to say no to bringing John Carpenter on, because in your mind you would think, yeah, it'll be a great film, but you also got to think about when he made that $10 million request, is he really in it for the purity of the Halloween mystique or franchise, or is he just in it for the money? So that makes me even think even more, Sean. So that's a good point.
I can't, like, if you would have asked me this before finding out all the behind the scenes stuff and how the production went down, I would have said, well, John Carpenter, absolutely. But then you realize where everybody's head was at and what the options were. I got to be honest, I'm glad he didn't get it, because I don't know if he would have done what was best. He clearly was more
So
worried about his payday than creativity.
real quick, I don't know people that know this, but as you just see, she stepped down on a ledge coming out of that. That's actually a covered pool. This scene where she's walking is
Oh, right.
actually the exact same place in Scream 3 where
Mhm.
Sidney Prescott walks up by the pool. So same place was used in Scream 3 as right here.
K&B
And I,
mask.
and I
Mhm.
think that such a sick scene right here, because we see her go through this throughout the movie, closing her eyes, open her eyes, and he's usually gone when she does that, and he's not here. I think it's cool how they pulled out of that.
Do we think he was actually there?
He was, and I only know that because Chris Duran said that himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so you learn something new every day. Let us know down in the chat, though, whether you're live or watching after the fact, if you would have preferred a John Carpenter version of this movie, knowing that John Carpenter was going to take up somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 65% of the budget for the movie, just for him to write and direct, or if you would have rather the movie that we ended up getting. Share your thoughts down below.
Yeah, see, because he walks out of frame right there, so that kind of gives you the not so much the illusion, but like, was he there? Was he not there? And like, at what point did Adam Arkin walk up and Michael kind of step out?
Also, a cool little fact too is you see that they are watching Scream 2 in that little dorm room. Well, a cool little note is Chris Duran actually played Ghostface in Scream 2.
And then what? One of the Scream movies, aren't they watching? I know obviously the original. They're watching Halloween. Isn't there another one they were watching? I think they were watching another one, and that was kind of like a little trade off they did. It was in here they're watching Scream 2, and then I think in one of the Screams they're watching another Halloween or something.
They
Something
might.
along
I
those
can't
lines.
remember. There's a lot of obviously the Kevin Williamson tie, and then
Mhm.
that cool little tidbit that I just said about Chris Duran, and also we'll get to it here at the end of the film. But when Jamie puts the kids in the car and tells them to drive down to the Becker's house,
Yeah.
or the McKenzie's, I can't remember. It was one or the other, but it was a Scream original reference as well. So I think
Mhm.
that's a Kevin Williamson thing right there.
Guess I'm muted. I want to go back to the John Carpenter thing for a second because um, it should be noted that they don't even approach the Halloween creatives on either side, whether it's Trancas or Dimension at this point in time, until after the success of Scream, which was just this massive $100 million blockbuster. So I think they were thinking, well, you just made all this money off of Scream, and this is going to be similar to that. So gimme, gimme, gimme. The budget can be ballooned, and obviously they wanted to keep the budget relatively low, but $17 million for a horror movie that filmed in '97 is a lot of money, and the
Yeah.
fact that he wanted 60% of it or so is kind of nuts.
He wanted to make up for lost time. He's thinking back all the years that he didn't get anything basically after the original, so he's trying to make up for lost time, pick up on the payday. But that's where I think maybe he shot high, hoping that they would negotiate and maybe kind of come down, meet him in the middle, and maybe he would get 5 or 6 million out of it. But even then, that's a lot of money back then too. So
I haven't talked about it yet. This is my first time watching this 4K version of the movie, but like it's clean, it's crisp. The color on it is fantastic. The visuals look great. This scene here looks amazing. Now, no 4K is going to clean up the horrible mask we're going to see not too long from now, but
they're going
uh,
to see it in even better quality.
one thing that watching a show like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon has done for me over the years is you got to look past the story and past the characters sometimes and see how a movie is made, how the cinematography is, how the sound design is, even if the score is, Frankenstein, and we'll get to that in a bit. But like, say what you want about the movie, it's shot very well.
Yeah, it is. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, there's some good cinematography. Definitely shines in the 4K. I just went through the scene with like all the candles and all, and I gotta say that it looks really good.
Yeah, it popped really nicely.
Mhm.
Kevin says H2O surpasses 78 for me just in terms of character arcs uh, and narrative crescendo. No thanks to Carpenter. This is the perfect finale for Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Well, I don't think I have this in my notes here. I just want to check and make sure. Um, okay, so I do, and we'll bounce this off of Kevin's question or a comment here. Uh, I know there's people that believe it's myth that Mustafa Akkad had the ability to veto any Michael Myers death, but it's not myth. He absolutely did and had the ability to shut down the film if he wanted to. So, Akkad, in fact, did have the legal rights to veto any death of Michael Myers. I'd like to get your guys' take on this too. I know we're watching, but so even when they were filming Halloween H20, they had known Michael Myers would survive the movie. Now, there's a lot of people that say and have said that no, he died in the movie, and they later on were going to come back to make Resurrection. No, they knew in order to sign off for H2O to be made, they knew he was going to survive. Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't happy with this and protested against it, but ultimately, a CAD could shut down the whole film if they didn't find middle ground. So JLC reluctantly returned for the first 10 minutes of the then titled Halloween H2K, which would go through extensive legal issues, eventually to be released 2 years after its intended release year of 2000 as Halloween Resurrection. Even Chris Duran played the shaped death scene in H2O as something that could be interpreted in multiple ways due to them knowing there would be a movie that followed this one. They would bring a skeleton crew back after they finished shooting the end of the movie for, I believe it was 1 or 2 days, to shoot Michael walking off in the woods that we see in Resurrection. That is actually shot during the Halloween H2O portion of filming. The only catch was they had to keep their mouth shut about it. They couldn't
Yeah.
speak as if there was going to be another one right away. That was signed, sealed, and delivered per Jamie Lee Curtis. So again, one of those things where I agree with Kevin. If this would have been it, this would have been a really good way to end. I don't think you should have had Michael touching his face at the end. Um, and actually, Michael in the actual script is supposed to like whisper and barely get out Lori out of his mouth before she cuts off his head. That had to be removed in order for them to have viability to do resurrection because some random paramedic with a crushed throat wouldn't know her actual name.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned this, Sean, talking about earlier about the making of this movie. I remember watching something on YouTube where that was what you said was broken down in that film. Dean, I don't know if you've seen it or if we're talking about the same making, but they do mention that as far as the only thing I remember from that is Jamie being very upset about this
Mhm.
not being the final ending, I guess, to the story. So when you said that, that rung a bell in my ear. That's not the first time I've heard that. So I know that that was a battle back and forth in some type of way. But I agree with Kevin. I mean, for me, it's as much as I love H4, because I love H4 a lot. And I talked about in the beginning my favorite four Mount Rushmore Halloween films, and H4 is included in that. But my favorite timeline is Halloween, H2, and H2O. Um, and I just wish it would have been the ending because we obviously know what happens in Resurrection. And I try my best not to, not to hold H2 accountable for the resurrection decisions, but then you hear what you just said, Sean, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because decisions of that were made beforehand. Um, but this was one of the, and I'm not trying to, Sean, I like Jamie, what she's meant to this franchise personally. I have my problems with her in the new films, but I do agree with her as far as like I just wish, and just anybody in general, like I wish that that would have been the end of kind of the story in general, because it's my favorite timeline, and like I said, I know it gets held accountable for the way Resurrection starts off, and we know why. So
Yeah, you could, excuse me, you can go with this ending and you can end the timeline right there. You can erase Resurrection and then move on and we just talked about Retribution. They could have followed up with that, or even if that kind of fell apart, you can jump right to Rob Zombie, and you can literally erase Resurrection. You're missing nothing from the franchise. So I would agree there that this is probably one of the better kind of like definite final endings to at least one of the timelines.
To the endings. Yeah, I would
Mhm.
I would agree with that.
K&B mask in that last shot, by the way.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in the theater, being very tense. Obviously, me personally, I thought Michael was going to go cut the thing on,
God,
and yeah, this shot.
Imagine
Is
your
that
picture getting ready to go to cinemas, and it's the last shot that you get in is the CG mask, and there's no time to do anything else. I, if I'm them, I just cut it. You don't need it.
yeah. Mm-mm.
You know. Um, I agree that maybe they just shouldn't have done Resurrection and rebooted the timeline there. Whether it was you do a remake or you go to a different timeline or you go back to six or whatever. I think H2O would have been a good ending. But remember, if H2O was the ending, Michael talks. That's how they wanted the ending to be. So, do you feel the same? Are you okay with Michael saying Lori? I know some people are against Michael ever saying anything.
no? As much as I hate Resurrection, like at least I get to make the choice of not being able to watch Resurrection, right? So in my mind, I can make this the ending if I really wanted to, despite the fact they made Resurrection. Like in my mind, I can do that. But if to your point, if they would have had Michael talk, I can't take that out. I can't unsee that. You know what I mean? So, um, valid point. Valid point. As much as I don't like Resurrection, you know, valid point. If that was like you said, the true ending to it.
See, I think for me, I could be just that much forgiving if that's all he mutters is Lori. He tries to get Lori out, and then she takes his head off. End it there. I
Dean with
could
the hot
probably,
take.
yeah, a little bit of a hot take because it's such a it's a name, and obviously this timeline it's his sister, so we're assuming he would know. And yeah, I mean he's gonna mutter half a word or almost her full name, and then she takes his head off. I think I could probably let that go if it means we don't ever get resurrection and all of the mess that it leads to.
It's funny you brought up the whole sister thing. I'm one of those people. I don't have a problem with the brother sister thing. I know that's
Mhm.
like a controversy throughout the franchise. To me, it's just not
Yeah.
that big of a fucking deal. Personally, like it just does not bother me as much as it bothers some people. And I'm not trying to bash on people that it does bother. Like I understand. It just never bothered me at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of forgiving. It doesn't really, either way, doesn't really matter for me. I love the original, and no relation whatsoever. But that short twist at the end of H2. Okay, it gives him a little bit of motive, but it doesn't really take away much. But then we get to 2018, and they kind of erase it. So I thought it was cool to
Oh,
get back to that. But
yeah, I mean they wanted it to be known, obviously.
mhm.
They wanted that erased.
They did it for
What
so
about
long. There's time to.
What about the chat here? What do you guys think? Would you have been okay with Halloween H2O being the ending of the 1-2 H2O timeline if it meant Michael talking and saying Lori before getting his head cut off? Let us know in the comment section down below. By the way, Sarah's death there, I don't like. I think it was very bad acting and lazy directing, and she doesn't make a sound hardly at all when the dumbwaiter falls on her, and when
Yeah.
she's getting stabbed. Like there's nothing. It's like, can we get a little bit of sound? Like audio is a big thing in horror movies. We're about to see a bunch of different mask changes.
I was waiting for it. I couldn't remember exactly where it was, but now I know it's coming up.
See if you can count how many, and let's see what the number is we come up with at the end.
You're about to get a mask change here when he walks into the light.
Yeah,
That's one.
it's plain. It's plain as day. Holy
Yeah,
shit!
yeah, especially in the
Wow.
4K version. Boy,
Mhm.
that stands out way more.
This is such a tense scene. I'm glad they put that in here. Like this whole
A and B
gate.
still.
Yeah,
Gate.
still the KB.
Winston from the side view.
That's what I thought.
Winston again there. K and B there. Oh my god. It's K and B again.
Choose your own adventure with a mask. There it is
K
again
and B
too.
again. My god.
And the Winston. Wow.
I like the way the K and B mask looked though during that scene when we got it.
It's not as harsh in the dark, but when you light that thing up, it's just
I was about to
it's
say
really flat.
it all depends on the lighting for that one.
Fun fact about that scene when I can't remember if it was Kevin Williamson. So Kevin Williamson wrote that scene that we just saw, and it's based off of real life events. Him and his buddy. He wasn't a city boy. He went to the city. He was with his buddy, and they almost got mugged, and they had to hide behind a gate like that, and they dropped their
Oh wow.
keys and couldn't get to them, and the mugger wasn't Michael Myers, and he didn't have a gun or anything, so he just ran away. But I thought that was pretty wild. It was based off real life events.
That's pretty cool.
I was gonna say that's kind of it's a cool twist. Not so much a twist, but just to include it. I live, and work in kind of a big city like that, so it's not entirely like out of the norm. And can we all agree that was 100% Michael? And now it's
It was.
it's Ronnie.
Chris Durant said it was him.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is we all know that Ronnie somehow lives through this in the version that we're all watching. However, in the TV cut of this movie, Ronnie dies. That's
Mhm.
it. Ronnie never appears again after this.
I want to find that TV cut.
I want to find the TV cut. I want to find the international cut, which is
When
closer
they
to the
play
TV.
when they play like on like AMC or TNT during the Halloween season, do they play the TV cut or do they play this?
I would think they play this now. I think you'd have to
Okay.
find
Yeah.
an old airing to find the TV cut. But they, in the TV cut of the movie, the stuff at the beginning with Marion is extended. She blocks off a door with a dresser because they felt like the movie was too short. So the TV cut
Yeah.
ends up being like 4 or 5 minutes longer than the actual movie cut, and similar to the international cut as well. And again, if you have access to those, you're sitting on a Halloween treasure. People want them, but the ability to find them is much like finding the Halloween 6 producers cut back in VHS days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I love the runtime on this. Like I have no problem with this at all.
86 minutes. It's quick. It's a quick, easy watch.
It is, yeah.
I think we just
And I've
saw
noticed
another mass change.
it's crazy. I've noticed myself enjoying a lot of 86, 87, 88 runtime films.
I'm seeing more and more mass changes now that we're actually looking for them. It
Yeah, when he
sticks
was
out
coming down
like
the stairs
much
there,
more.
and yeah,
Mhm.
it's
It's a lot more jarring than I thought.
and well, in higher quality movie now, right?
Mhm.
You're going from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray. Now we're at 4K. You know,
Yeah.
one day we'll have 8K.
Here comes the Supreme.
Um, it yeah, it shows way more.
Drive down to the Beckers. I'm excited to see the shot come up in 4K. It's one of my favorite shots in all of the Halloween films. Her walking up the hill with the axe and screaming at Michael. I think it's a great scene. I'm excited to see it in
Yeah,
4K.
I want to see like the lighting, like how dark it looks.
Yeah. I wish I could experience it even more. Have all the lights on in my room just because of the stream,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it looks good.
yeah, that does look pretty good. Love the shadow on the ground too.
Hmm.
It looks fantastic. Sorry, Mike, I love you, buddy. It sounds terrible. In the trailer, we get the original score at that point. Um,
I love the score, man. I'm telling you, I love it. I was playing it on the way home in the car, and it was gorgeous, man. It was gorgeous.
when the movie ends, we'll get to the score, and we'll talk about how it really is a Frankenstein of a score and what that means. I do like the whole character. Like, I'm not a big Laurie Strode fan, which is probably blasphemy as a Halloween fan to say. But
So
I love the character arc of her finally
Yeah.
just being like, enough is enough. My kid's gone. He's safe. Fuck this guy.
yeah. Chris Duran said that he actually held himself up there on that pole like that, and brought himself down in that motion. No wires, no nothing.
He actually went through the window of the van too at the end.
Oh wow.
Oh damn,
That
that's crazy.
yeah, that I didn't know.
Obviously not at that speed, but he does go through the
Yeah.
window to a point where like him and crew and even Jamie Lee Curtis were clearing off like rocks and stones and debris off the dirt road to make sure that when he went through, he wasn't going to land on anything other than the dirt road to break his fall.
He also said that I'm getting a little head here, but when Lori, comes after him, stabs him, and he falls over the railing, that he had to kind of, the railing was so high that it was coming up above his butt. He kind of had to jump to clear it, jump and like kind of squeeze to be able to clear that. And then he really did jump off of that. Obviously, at the bottom, he jumped on something, one of the parachute things, but he actually had to jump over that. He said it was very difficult.
That's a pretty high fall too. 10 feet or so, maybe.
Yeah.
Didn't they redo this right here with her under the tables? Wasn't this classroom scene from 4 that was cut, or like an idea that they didn't use and then they came back and did it here?
I'm not sure it totally. I know that this scene was Chris Duran said they only shot this specific scene one time. They got it on the first try with the tables. But as far as like the idea of it, I'm not sure.
Pedro sends in a super chat. How is Michael hanging up there to begin with? Um, it
I'll,
it is a
I'll
good
have
question how he gets up there.
I don't know if he says it in the video. I'll have to maybe clip it and I'll send it to y'all later tonight. But he said he was actually up there, you know, and came down on his own.
Yeah, we won't get any strikes for that. If anything, my audio might be a little loud.
Yeah, damn, that's a high fall. Holy shit.
Yeah, but if you saw, he was talking about like if you saw when he fell off how high his legs were, like he
Yeah.
had to do that to be able to clear from the top of that archway to
Yeah.
how high that railing was.
Johnny V in the house. Michael ignores the laws of gravity like every other law. If I had bells, man, I'd ring them. And I do have to say that the 4K of this, I know I said it earlier, it holds up real well, and
Yeah.
I've been pretty impressed with it.
Yeah, this is the benefit you get when they restore from like a good negative. It kind of keeps everything really in check. And then
I
if
wish
you
I could
if
see
you look,
yours like side by side because I have no
yeah,
doubt Scream Factory is probably a little bit better, but
it might be. Somebody told me that like there's a slight difference, and I forget. This was a long time ago, but yeah, I mean, I think they were both done from a negative. I think that Paramount is they might have done a whole new scan, but I can't remember. But yeah, my version it's looking pretty good. I would imagine both of yours is probably really close, and then I'm noticing just a slight level of green in it. It's not too jarring. It's not real green heavy. So clarity and color wise, it's looking really good.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with it. Because you know you kind of get a little nervous about the darkness of the film, especially come nighttime at
Yeah.
the academy. But it's not too dark at all. Like it's a great scan.
it makes you wonder what else is in the TV cut because even that Ronnie
Yeah.
part there would be out, and the TV cut ends up being something like 5 or 6 minutes longer than this cut. So what are the other things that get extended?
Somebody out there has to have it.
Oh, for sure. Somebody recorded it on some awful VHS bootleg tape
Yeah.
at some
Yeah,
point
they
in time.
did. Yeah, they did. They recorded over their family reunion in 2001.
I'd love, there's probably not a way for them to get a hold of it, but it'd be cool for the 30-year anniversary if they did like a big, multi-disc steel book that had, you got, even though there are only slight differences, you got the theatrical cut, the international theatrical cut, and the TV cut all in it.
I'll say this: if the masters still exist, which I'm sure they probably do, it's just a matter of tracking them down and who has them. If the money's on the table for them to kind of get the licensing rights to do that, it's totally doable. Like they do it all the time with these boutique releases. They track down these crazy, like random cuts that just get found. The Blair Witch Project is about to come out early November from Second Sight, and they went back and they did that. They got like like the old videotape masters, and they're redoing. Well, they're done now,
Yeah.
but they did the scans for that, so that's coming out. And Return of the Living Dead 3. An original like 1991 cut was found like on same thing like a VHS or a different master, and apparently there's something in the works for that too. So if these cuts exist and they're still out there in a good format, it can be done.
Did you order that, Dean? The Blair Witch one?
Blair Witch, yeah, I did. I was on the fence because it's Region B locked, but I wanted to get the book. It's coming with like this, I think, 150 page like hardcover book, so it's coming with that. Like a mock-up journal, Heather's journal that was like found. It's kind of like a prop. So I just said screw it. I ordered that, and then I might actually get a Region B or I'm sorry, a Region free Blu-ray player. just to be able to kind of watch it because I want to see the original cut and what it was supposed to look like.
I wonder how much that is. Have you looked?
For the set or the players?
Players.
I think now they're maybe between like the $200 and $300 range. I was gonna get a 4K player that was completely region free to pop discs in, but they're pricey. They're about $700.
Let me tell you, this paramedic ate his Wheaties.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dead. That's happened to me. I'm done. Count me out.
Survives going through the window. Survives the roll down the hill. Survives the van crushing.
Sits up just like Michael.
Yeah. But the whole mask grabbing part that we're about to see here is supposed to be what they did to make it seem like it's not Michael, and then obviously cutting out the dialogue.
Yeah.
More movie watch parties. Yeah, a lot more coming between here and Halloween, man. We'll try to free up Mike when we can and get him on here. And when we can't get Mike, we'll see if we can get some other people on here. But I do want to do quite a few watch parties between now and Halloween.
I remember this part scaring the shit out of me at the movies because of the sound as soon as she slices his neck. I remember that scaring the shit out of me.
That stinger, yeah, that stinger comes in loud. Yeah. Ooh.
God, I wish that was the ending.
You could do it right there. You end it here and you just forget resurrection.
Nah, man. They need some money maids. They need some
Of
monies in
course.
their
That man had a family. That
Yeah.
guy had some poor innocent little Jillian and Bob lost their dad there. Sick monster. Justice for paramedic at the beginning of Resurrection. Well, that was fun. There's a few discussion points I want to get to, but I can honestly say I've been looking forward to watching this for a while now, especially diving into the behind the scenes stuff. And it is one of the movies that grows on me with time. And I do got to attribute it to watching shows like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and being able to appreciate things, that not a lot of people necessarily look at when watching one of these movies. The first topic of discussion that I've been waiting all night to get to, but I wanted to wait till the movie was over. Mike's supposed to break my heart at some point during this stream too. Hasn't happened yet.
it's
But
coming.
the score for Halloween H20. So this is from the behind the scenes to give people an idea why it kind of feels like it's everywhere. The score for H20 is a mess. The original composer, John Ottman, who I believe you can get, whether it's deleted scenes with his score put back over what some of the stuff they ended up. What is it, Dean, that's on your Screen
Yeah.
Factory release? The Ottman stuff?
Yeah, they went back and put in his score that was supposed to originally be included back over whatever scenes they were supposed to be in. So you kind of get to go back and experience like what was the original score supposed to be paired up with whatever certain scenes it was supposed to be in.
So John Ottman was very secretive over what he was doing with the score. And when they tested the movie with test audiences, his score wasn't in it. That's not uncommon. When they
Right.
tested H40, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, none of them had the current scores in them. They were scores used from previous movies. Um, it was a temp score. Once creative heard Ottman's score very late in the process, they were livid. They stated it wasn't a Halloween score and it didn't fit the movie. They ended up flying Marco Beltrami, who gets credit here in the credits, to rescore some of the movie. But due to the release date being moved up over a month, they only had a week with him. So you might remember me saying Kevin Williamson came on and did like a really quick rewrite of some of the script after they'd already shot the first scene. Well, right before the release, they fly in Beltrami. He rescores some of the movie, and the actual score that we're hearing in this movie is part John Ottman, part Marco Beltrami, and part temp score. There's not one solid cohesive score in this movie, and oh my god, what's his face? I can't remember the guy who did My Bloody Valentine 3D. Todd for Patrick Lussier, who
Hmm.
edited this movie, had said if they wouldn't have had the release date moved up on them, that they were gonna just rescore the entire movie. So, while you like this score, Mike, I really got to give you credit for it. It is a Frankenstein score. They you know did what they could, and this there's people that'll shit on H2O today in 2024, but this movie scored very well critically and box office wise when it came out. And when you consider the three different ways it's being pulled creatively, going from um what's his name here? Robert Zappia's main script to Kevin Williamson coming on and doing a quick 6-day rewrite of what he could, which basically just contained he redid Ronnie's scenes, he did the Janet Leigh scene, and he cleaned up some of the dialogue between the kids. That's the extent of Kevin Williamson's, you know, in-depth writing on this movie, other than a 6-page story treatment, which he still used a lot of Robert Zappia's stuff. A lot of people try to make it out that like Kevin Williamson was this massive part of H2O, but he wasn't. In fact, to a point, the Writers Guild didn't give him credit on the movie for writing on it, and in order to make up for that, the Weinstein's ended up giving him a executive producer credit instead. And then you got the score stuff. Did either of you guys know that about the score? That it's actually three different scores that are combined into one to make the movie.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, I wasn't too aware. I knew there was two. I didn't know that the third temp score was also kind of sewn together in there and added in. So that's another new fun fact. Sean, I think you're muted.
Let
You're
us know
muted.
what you think of the Halloween H2O score down in the comment section below. Kevin says I get swapped up in the you mean swept up in the orchestra Halloween score like a big gust of leaves. Well, the orchestra one is done by John Ottman, and a lot of
Mhm.
the rest of the movie had that feel prior to them bringing in Beltrami and then using some of the temp score as well.
No, thank you on the resurrection time. Not tonight.
We'd considered it. We thought about going
We did.
to Resurrection. Um, gonna get into some of the differences here and get your guys' take on this. Robert Zappia. So this is kind of like the origin of H2O before Carpenter and Hill and JLC approached them. Robert Zappia was tapped to write Halloween 7. He would go on to pen Halloween 2 Faces of Evil, which, if you want an in depth look at what that was going to be, it is available on Taking Shape 2 or in Taking Shape 2 whether you're reading it or in audio format. In a nutshell, though, Two Faces of Evil was a movie that still took place out in a boarding school and followed a detective named Kincaid, who was kind of being aided by an obsessed Michael Myers fan who had become a killer. Think Silence of the Lambs. Zappia would sit down with Weinstein, and he was told that he has good news and bad news. The bad news is we're not going forward with your script. The good news is we like the way you wrote it, and Jamie Lee Curtis is returning, and we want you to write the film. Little did Zappia know the Weinsteins the entire time were obsessively trying to pull in screenwriter Kevin Williamson to be able to market the movie. Obviously, off screen, Williamson's name was huge at that time. Thoughts on that, guys? I know it's just kind of surface level stuff.
Um, interesting, but that's something that kind of happens behind the scenes a lot, where someone thinks they're going to be, more involved in something, and then, the rug is kind of swept out from underneath of them. So that's unfortunate, but studio interference is huge, like we always talk about.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy actually how often that happens, but no, I agree. And usually, I don't want to say I don't maybe usually, but the studio is usually wrong.
For the most part, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
And then the last point I wanted to bring up was something that we talked about off air, or maybe in our chat, was Jamie Lee Curtis basically had one demand for returning for Halloween H20. She was only going to return if she could kill Michael Myers, which she kind of half got her wish for 3+ years. Um, and her exact quote was, "Why am I coming back if we can't get Laurie a win?" But this is where I just do not see eye to eye with Jamie Lee Curtis's creative approach to the Halloween series. I'm with Mike. I actually really like her role in this movie. I think her performance is really good in this movie. I think the name Carrie Tate doesn't get brought up enough in Halloween lore. Um, I like her performance a little bit better in H40. But like she survives one, so maybe it's not a win, but a draw. She definitely wins in two. Are you ever going to take a loss? You get
Yeah,
away in H40. I mean, I guess the loss might be kills, but you're in the movie for all of like 8 or 9 minutes, and then you win in the worst of ways in Halloween Ends, and it's
yeah.
just kind of like I don't know if people know the Hulk Hogan reference. If Johnny's still here, he'll get it. But when I think of Jamie Lee Curtis and the Halloween franchise, look, the franchise isn't where it is today without her. It's that simple. Specifically, the David Gordon Green trilogy too. Like, you don't have Jamie Lee Curtis in there, and you're not marketing the movies on the rate that they did and getting the attention that they did. They might have eventually found the attention when people watched if she wasn't in them. But at the same time, the whole "that's not going to work for me, brother" attitude it ran its course. I think by the time we got to the David Gordon Green trilogy, Mike, you spoke a little bit about your issues with her there. Did it really show up for you during that trilogy where she was the number one component about really pushing the social commentary in that trilogy and a lot of the direction that it went, and she herself has come out and said since Halloween Ends is out that yeah, no, I squashed a bunch of their ideas of where they were going to go with Halloween Ends, and we took it a different direction.
Yeah, obviously out of the trilogy, my biggest complaint was, Halloween Ends. Um, but I kind of feel like I had no problem with her in 18. I thought she was okay. I thought she did good in 18. Um, I don't as far as going back to H2O though. I don't know if I agree with her as far as the whole when am I going to get a win thing. I do agree with the fact of her being able to kill Michael in this movie. Just for me personally, I feel like that this would have been a good ending to this story. Look, Sean, and I've said it before in the stream. I'm a big Jamie Lee Curtis fan. Like and just in general, I may not agree with what she put out in the David Gordon Green series and the decisions she's made, but overall, like for me being a horror fan, a Halloween fan, she's meant a lot to me and to this franchise. But with that being said, I kind of didn't want to see her after H2O. I thought that she in general had ran her course, and I know that might be hard for some people to stomach. And I'm not trying to shit on her. Like I said, I'm a big fan of hers, but with the decisions that were made in the David Gordon Green series, I think we could have done without her. Maybe they couldn't have, like, to your point, as far as the marketing and getting her to pull in and things of that nature. But I don't know. For me, my favorite, like I said, favorite timeline is Halloween H2 and then H2O, and I would have been perfectly fine with Jamie Lee Curtis stepping out of the franchise for good. But that may be a hot take, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, but that's just my personal opinion.
Man,
Yeah,
go ahead, Dean.
go ahead, Sean. I would say, yeah, she had a good run. I think in obviously the original H2, she gets a big win. Michael's blown up in a hospital room, and then even here, H2O, she gets her basically her pinnacle of wins here. So I did like her in 18 Kills, but I think what they could have done is maybe use her as like just like the reference character. People, if Michael's coming back, it's not about her. Maybe people are kind of consulting her. They track her down to kind of get, I guess, her insight, her input on what it was like to deal with him, and then they kind of go off in a new direction. But even with that said, doesn't bother me in 18, doesn't bother me in Kills. But when you get to ends, like, no. So ending her timeline here, I think, could have worked really well in the capacity that she was involved, and then, like I mentioned, kind of just use her for reference in the new trilogy.
So we know in the month of October that we would like to do Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and
Time out.
Halloween.
Time out. I need your opinion, Sean. How do you feel about that? Just as far as Jamie overall, is like, do you feel like that should have been the end for Jamie in H2O, or I mean, like, how do you feel about it overall with her control power, especially in the newest trilogy?
Man, it's so tough, right? Because like for me, it narratively speaking, I'd probably agree with you in terms of what appears on the screen, but then you're asking for me to basically remove myself from being at TIFF 2018 and seeing the world premiere and being 5 or 6 feet away from Jamie Lee Curtis and Andy Matichuk and everybody. Um, that's tough, man. It's hard to like remove that life experience from it.
For sure.
But narratively, for me, I kind of feel like you have your own. I don't like calling it a made up trilogy, but like the Mike Bish trilogy, 1, 2, H2O, and it ends there. Much like I have 1, 2, 4, and I just pretend 5 didn't happen, right? So we have similar made up trilogies, just different ends to them. But obviously yours has a more definitive ending, and mine would be a cliffhanger. But I look, movie stars are not all of them, not everyone's Keanu Reeves, but are very ego driven, and I think in Jamie Lee Curtis's case, she just got way too much power as the David Gordon Green trilogy went on. Um, Keeping in mind, like she made that movie, 2018, for next to nothing. Her payday was next to nothing up front. It was all based on if the movie was going to blow up and be a success. And believe me when I tell you, nobody, and I mean nobody, had that movie making $250+ million worldwide. So she got a very, very nice payday from having points on the back end. So that happens, and she obviously gets attributed to being a big part of that. And all of a sudden, she has more power going into Kills and Ends because there's no deal secured for Kills and Ends at that point. So they had to go back and redo deals. And it's the more I watch Halloween Kills, kind of like Halloween H20, the more I like Halloween Kills. Halloween Ends, I don't think is ever going to change for me. I think it's a well-made movie. Cinematography speaking, sound design speaking, even acting in it is quite good. But as a Halloween movie, as Halloween story arcs and a continuation of a story that you've set up from 78 through 2018 in Kills, it bombs massively. And the number one reason for that is Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm sorry, it just is. Like she was it's well known, her own words, how difficult she was in terms of putting that movie together. You got to remember, they're putting together Halloween Ends a year before Halloween Kills is ever released because of COVID. They've
Yeah.
signed a two-picture deal. A lot of people like to spin it as, oh, well, they didn't start putting together Ends until shortly after Kills came out. No, they were putting out Ends shortly. They were working on Ends essentially the second they were done shooting Kills. And Kills, it didn't, not like they didn't make adjustments to it or anything, but like Kills had been done for a long time before we got to experience it in theaters thanks to COVID. And sorry for rambling here, Mike, but like she is a problem. And I see people out there today still going, well, for the Halloween TV series to be successful, we need to get Jamie Lee Curtis back. And it's like,
No.
no, and thankfully, the very little that we've heard on it, there's no involvement of Jamie Lee Curtis whatsoever, and I think that is the right direction to go.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, we don't need a Laurie to come back for the series. At least not a Jamie Lee Curtis Laurie for that to be successful. Not a chance.
Agreed. And like TV success will be viewed differently than box office success. You won't get an answer, within the first weekend that the series. I mean, if the whole series drops at once, then maybe you'll have an answer after the first week or two. But if it's episodic, spread over 8 to 10 weeks, then you're not going to know for a while how well that series is doing.
Mhm.
As I was saying, though, we want to do 1, 2, 4 in the month of October. But Mike, do you think you'll have time to do another one of these in September? And if so, what one would you want to do? We can't do
Ooh,
Kills because we have a commitment to that. So really, your options would be, we could do H3, which is not a Michael movie, or we could do. Basically, your options would be some version of H6, uh, Halloween 2018, or Rob Zombie's first movie. And if there's not interest in those, we can wait till October.
I would probably do Rob Zombie's first movie. Would be my choice. And I say that because, for the longest time, I've had a lot of hate for his films. Just being honest. But that first Rob Zombie film, the past couple of years, has kind of grown on me. And I'm not saying it's grown on me a lot, but it's grown on me some. And I would just like to, and it's a very, that whole, both of those films are very, especially the second one, very um, opinionated, whatever side you're on. And I don't really know what you two are on. I kind of know what side he's on when it comes to those films, but I always think that controversial stuff, or just when people have different opinions, and in general, I think it's great to get together and have
Yeah.
those conversations. My friend Kevin that has been active in the chat tonight, his favorite Halloween movie is H2, and that's Rob Zombie's H2, and that's very controversial. But I don't know, I just love that everybody has different opinions, and I love being able to pick people's brains to see what they see through their eyes, what makes them love a certain type of film. Um, and I can't wait to watch H4 with you, Sean, to see what makes it your number one film as well. So maybe Rob Zombies or a version of Six, either one of those, I would be up for.
Yeah, it'd be cool doing Rob Zombies. That'd be. I haven't watched that film in a long time. I haven't watched H4 in a long time at this point, right? So, um, I'd stayed away from the Halloween movies for quite some time. As for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think if we're gonna watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, we got to make time for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in the not so distant future, like not 6 months after the fact, because I think it's a horrible Halloween movie. I think most of the movie is laughable. And yet it's one of those movies that for me is such a train wreck that I enjoy watching it. Like I have a good time watching sort of everything fall apart. No offense to Kevin. So I do enjoy watching it, just for all the wrong
Yeah.
reasons. I said 2%. Um, but yeah, so
I
we'll
love
get Mike back on for as many as we can in terms of scheduling, but it will be difficult to schedule 1, 2, and 4 in the same month. We might even have to aim to have one done towards the end of September or something. We'll have to look ahead on the schedule. But before we get to wrap up here, you wanted to break my heart over something.
Sean, what is your favorite Halloween film?
Halloween 4.
So for the longest time, my ranking, and I said this earlier, that my ranking for the Halloween films, in no order, was Halloween 2, Halloween 4, and H2O. Like those were my Mount Rushmore for Halloween films that I just absolutely adore, and I still feel that way about all four. My ranking for the longest time was the original H2, 4, and H2O. But Sean, H2O has moved in front of 4 for me, and I hate to say that. I don't mean to break your heart, but it has. It has. Sean has logged off.
Sean has left the chat.
But it has come to a point where that is the case. So I apologize, man. Still love 4. Like I said, it's and just in general, just like I said, those 4 movies that I just named, I forgot whatever's in my ranking. I have the next film after that is I still enjoy, but it's a drop off. Like those 4 films for me in the Halloween franchise, I just adore. Um, so yeah,
Hopefully, it maintains the Mount Rushmore spot at least.
Yeah.
that's not gonna break unless something that's just not gonna happen. 4 has too much sentimental value to me, along with all 4 of those mean something to me. H2O for the first movie that I saw in theaters and me actually enjoying it and being good, and H4 was the one that, God, anytime I turned on the TV growing up as a kid in October, it was on TV. So that's just not going to happen. So you don't have to worry about that.
Um, yeah, I think the reason I love H4 the most, the number one reason is for me, this might be controversial, but it's the definitive Donald Pleasance Dr. Loomis Halloween movie. Like I think it's his best performance in the entire series. He's the
It's good.
guy that sort of steers the ship in that movie, and I appreciate it. And the other controversial take is I have Lori here, and I have Rachel somewhere up here. So, um, yeah. Anyway, stay tuned for news on our next watch party. I know even after the Halloween season passes, we'll dive into this is titled Haddonfield and Beyond now, this channel. So there's nothing wrong with doing movies that aren't in the Halloween franchise either when we have time for it. Dean will have a show shared slash that goes up tomorrow. Couldn't get to it this weekend, so it'll be up tomorrow on the channel. Be on the lookout for that. And then we'll start to clip stuff out from tonight's stream that'll probably be available next week. And we'll get back to you all on a time for some of these watch parties, but our goal is to have them all done by Halloween. Mike, where can everybody find you at, man? What do you got going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm just kind of I don't know, doing adult shit, I guess you could say. Not doing a whole lot these days, but hopefully, time will slow down a little bit and be able to bring back the Take One. And I'm really looking forward to these watch alongs with you guys. That's going to be really, really fun. So, yeah, just find me whenever you can, wherever you can.
Dean, how about you, man?
I'm still waiting on the final answer from that little kind of teaser that I dropped
Yep.
last week. It's on the fence. I think I'm going to check in on that tomorrow. And like I said, that could be a little bit beneficial here. So once I get the green light on that, I will kind of formally let everybody know what that might be. I've been working like crazy lately, so it's getting a little difficult to kind of get on here and get live. But Sean and I are kind of putting our minds together for standalone videos and stuff to put out for everybody here. So keep your eyes peeled. We got a lot of fun stuff planned, like Sean mentioned, and we're not really going anywhere too far.
Don't be surprised. I'll throw this nugget out there. If that thing that Dean's referring to happens, don't be surprised if you see like a live stream from us, whether it's once a week, even a couple of times a week on some weeks, or, once every 10 days or so, that doesn't launch until like 11 o'clock at night or
Yeah.
midnight. We might not visually appear on camera for that, given, how late it is and, what our situation and setup is, but there will be some sort of live stream with our audio on it. Just sometimes we got to adjust and adapt our schedules. I know mine's about to change here come next week. And yeah, we just really appreciate the support from everyone. And it's showing too, our views aren't where they used to be in the, in the heyday where we were getting anywhere from, 1,500 to 7 or 8,000 on our videos, but several hundred. And the most important thing is, I seen names in here tonight that I haven't seen before on the channel. And in the last 2 months, we've had more new subscribers by doing pre-produced content than we have in the last year combined. So that's appreciated too. I also want to give a shout out to our channel sponsors because without them, look, it costs money to do this stuff. It costs money to operate StreamYards, it costs money for Filmora, costs money for Canva, all that stuff. So without money coming in, there's no way we could do it on the level that we do it on. So we appreciate those that sign up for Patreon, which Dean and I are working on more content for. And but the channel sponsors, Chris C underscore 78 on Instagram. If you want a Michael Myers mask made for you, check him out. Excellent artist, reasonable prices. Definitely go check him out. He's a big supporter of ours. Kaulignation, if you're a NASCAR fan, Ryan, who you see on our Legacy of Westeros channel, him and I do that channel, and he's a sponsor on this channel as well. That channel just hit monetization not too long ago, so that's pretty cool. Legacy of Westeros isn't far off from monetization, and Zap Productions by Zach Arnold. He also helps out as a sponsor. Matt Whitfield, we love Matt, and I know Matt's participating in Mike's football pool this year. It's really cool to see just a random picture of you guys in person. I was having a really shitty day, and I saw the picture, and it just something as simple as that just made me smile, and it brought me up. And shout out to Backtrack Cinema, Jason Nike, who I've done a ton with. I know whenever we get around to watching something Friday the 13th related, he's going to be on here for that for sure. Check out his channel. He has I believe it's a top 100 90s movies video coming out in, I don't know if it's 21 hours or 21 days. I think it's 21 hours. So check that out on Backtrack Cinema. And then Jesse's Storytime Spectacular. Check out his content. He's been posting new stuff. Another big supporter of the channel. Without the help of all those people, this channel and all of our other channels simply don't exist. And for Dean and Mike tonight, I know we talked about it like a lot of production stuff, but it was fun to watch the movie. I finally got to watch it in 4K, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the conversations, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Me too, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Mike, you're welcome anytime, you know that.
And with that said, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all. This has been a lot of fun. Have a great end of your night. We'll see you soon in Haddonfield and beyond.